before about my rituals of kind of preparing for my day and how putting my makeup on is kind of like getting my game face ready. And I did not want to wear makeup today. So I have like a little bit on, but not a lot. And that is really kind of a symbol for what is going on for me. Not, this is coming up for me today in this symbolic form, but it has been coming up for me, I would say, for the past about 6 months. I've really been battling. So, my initial battle was to gain my power back, to call my power back to my body. Um, and that was a battle because I had silenced myself for years. For years. Was it tacitly agreed that I should do that? It was, but was I muzzled? No, that was really by my own hand. And so that was hard fought power. And it is necessary in that phase of building power to become somewhat narcissistic, which we all know, like, bad word means, self centered to the point of like absolutely being usury of all others, right? But unless you are able to really deeply and truly fall in love with yourself, you'll never be able to be capable of the compassion it needs, the compassion one needs for the next step. So now the next step is that you've amassed this power, you're luxuriating in your womanhood for me, and all its radiance and its beauty, but the ego is inflated. The ego is inflated. It's necessarily inflated, but it is inflated. So the next step for me was kind of wrestling with that power and making sure that I was leading the way, not an image what I thought the powerful power was, or only leading with my warrior aspects, like battling all the time, charging forward, which incidentally are aspects of my animus, meaning my man inside, my masculine energy, which needed to amass and fight because it never had before. Certainly not. It had amassed and fight on behalf of others, those I love. That was very easy, which is a maternal thing. Um, but it wasn't easy for me to amass and fight on my own behalf. So it was a necessary period where I needed to lead with the warrior and charge up the hill with the sword drawn and embody my own Joan of Arc tendencies. And then the next step to integrate those things was really to get a little bit softer. And that's when Sophia, God, was brought into my life. So that's the feminine aspect of God. Now, obviously, God has no gender for me, but I had come to power under the tutelage and love of Father God. In fact, I needed to form a romantic attachment to Father God, really fall in love so that my relationship became direct and not sort of amorphous and indirect. So that personification was actually quite important to me. And so the next iteration was really softening into my feminine energy and allowing that to kind of steer the ship. And it brought me amazing and beautiful gifts too. It also tempered the warrior, so it was a more wise warrior. So I like to think of it as a primal warrior where you're digging back into all of your ancient knowledge, rather than a savage warrior where you're blood drunk and you're not employing your deepest knowledge. You're just cutting to cut. And so that brings me to kind of the beginning. And then the next step after, for me, with that real motherly and being able to imbue the great mother to bring me closer to Gaia, the earth, the vibration of the earth, and trying to return my own vibration to that, which I talked about yesterday. Um, so now I felt like I had two halves that were really complementary, but they were still halves. And also I tend to bring forward my work self, my lover self, my girlfriend self, like, so there were still roles being played. And so then the next gift was, now that I had the true love for myself that you fight for with your power struggle, and then the true softening and humility that it takes to allow those things to kind of find their balance. then it was time to heal my inner child. And I have taken an exorbitant amount of concentrated energy to heal that little girl. A lot of my posts have been about healing that little girl or little boy inside you, because it's where our root traumas and wounds lie. And until those wounds are addressed, they're never gone, but until they're addressed and you've moved some energy around them, um, you will be stuck in just telling the narrative. And I have many videos that point to that, where how to tell the difference between, if you're just telling the story or you're actually making some changes and moving energy. Very, very important distinction. So then with this, and so that's all self work and really inner. Now, in order to do self work effectively, I believe that you do need to have an access to God, to source, to make it bigger than yourself, and really to understand your place and your role in the universe, right? So really, we are cellularly small relatively, right? We are tiny little beings. But I do believe, so anyway, let me go back to my next phase, because that's really where I'm at now. So after a lot of work on healing my inner child, which also does not stop, that keeps going. She is absolutely made to feel safe by you. Your adult woman needs to take responsibility and has the maturity for your little girl to really trust that the adult is ready to absolutely be in control, so she doesn't have to be. So your less mature attitudes will start to fade in a little more into the background. You'll certainly be able to recognize them more. Which brings me to this week of meditation. So synchronistically, we are given these gifts and paths in a very specific order for each of us. So where this brought me to is it basically took all that whole book of all of that personal work and opened the door to make it galactic, to make it not my own, not only my own, for me to see that one of my favorite phrases in women's circles is, one woman's work is every woman's work. And it's so true, because you can be from very many different childhoods and cultures, and some of the general wounds of humanity are absolutely shared. And it's what we it's what we work to unlearn. So the gift that this week has given me is to not just understand my role in the world and my purpose, which I think is very important, especially if you want a purpose-driven life. But it did two things for me. It allowed me to see that my life is like a puzzle piece in the gigantic jigsaw puzzle, which I love to do, by the way, of the cosmos, and that we are not alone here. There's so many bigger things that we are welcome to and interact with, but we can't do that unless it's coming from a place of personal strength. And so all my work has been so that I could, because I've looked at the topics that were covered this week, and I talked about this week that my vibration was too low to accept them. So this week I've done enough work where conceptually, the studying always continues, but conceptually I was able to get to a place that's new. And the other thing that's happened for me this morning, and this takes me back to the beginning of the video with not really wanting to wear any makeup, is all of my facets of who I am. The sage, the sexpot, the professor, the nun in the tower, the scribe, the mother, the sister, the partner. They're all here. There's no carousel like, who am I supposed to bring forward? Today, this isn't always the case. Today, I feel very present in a braid with all of these aspects of myself showing up at the same time in the same place. And that's a new kind of being present for me. It's an allowing and an invitation for all of everything that I am to come and be seen. And I have spoken those words before, but I have not embodied them the way that I am today. So what I invite you to do is to take some moments today and bless all the parts of yourself that make up you. And that's the roles too. You as mother, you as wife, you as person in the world, you as good friend, you as daughter, you as son. Those things are so powerful. And the more that you can bless them and then work through the trauma, the more that you can get to this place where I know everything is temporary, but this is a place I know that is my new baseline, and I want to turn to this place of unity again and again, so this becomes my regular reality. It's open to so much more possibility because there's so much less striving, there's so much less defensiveness, and there's a lot more forgiveness and openness. And I absolutely bless that for you today. And I will see you tomorrow.